again. It's a redskin.
Hey guys, today I'm going to be talking about every single romance book I have read from January 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2021. And let's just say I've read a ton of books. I have hit my goal of 100 out of 100 books, and majority of them were romance because there is this rise of book talk and smut talk. So let's get into it. Let's start off with all of the contemporary romances I have read. So yes, I have read a lot of smutty romances and stuff, but I have still trying to be able to get into the lighter. You can see I have like People We Meet on Vacation, I have like The Marriage Game, I have Beach Read. So I am trying to stay within the whole romance genre and not just reading a bunch of smutty romances. So we can talk about what I read in March. So March was when I kind of started to read a lot of my deeper, darker, sporty romances, all that kind of stuff, but I was still reading like a bunch of light, fluffy romances in March itself. So I read The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. I'm really excited. I did a reading vlog for it on my book talk and I enjoyed it. It's kind of a rivals to lovers, kind of falling under that enemies to lovers category, but I really enjoyed it. I'm excited for the movie, and I think I read it in like less than a day because it was just very catching and I enjoyed it. The next one is boyfriend material. I got this because it gave me red, white, and royal blue vibes. And was I impressed? No, it didn't meet my expectations, but I still enjoyed the book. Just because it didn't meet that like red, white, and royal blue vibe of what I had, it still was good. It was fake dating, British men. It's kind of rom-com, so there are funny moments. There were questionable moments as well within this book, so that's why I couldn't give it a full 5 out of 5. The next one is Talk Bookish to Me. This is a arc that I got sent by HarperCollins to review on my book talk, and let's just say this is a good palate cleanser. If you want to read a book that's not too deep, this is a good book for you. She's an author, and it's like a reconnecting love with her ex-boyfriend from college, like 10 years later. And she is a spicy romance author. I give it like, I think a 3.5 stars out of 5. So it was decent. Probably won't read again, but it was a very cute, light, fluffy palate cleanser. The next one is, of course, Bridgerton. Oop. I actually did read this in January when the Bridgerton TV show came out because I was working at Barnes & Noble at the time and I enjoyed it. There was a very questionable scene of what Daphne did at the end, and I felt like it wasn't actually talked about or resolved in any way, and I'm very glad they left that out of the TV show because I think a lot of people I hate Daphne because of it. It has to do with essay and stuff, so that's where I'm gonna leave it at that. So there is that kind of like trigger warning for that, but it is that fake dating has kind of been the trend on book talk for like this year, is that fake dating rivals romances. So it was good. I want to read the other books, but I'm gonna wait until the TV versions with like each of the characters comes out before I start buying the whole series. The next is Get a Life, Chloe Brown. I read this for the podcast. We did a podcast episode on it. I really enjoy it. Talia Hibbert. I liked the writing style. It definitely felt like a fiction book with romance in it. It didn't feel like a romance book. So that's why I think I enjoyed it. It's definitely a refreshing look into kind of that style of writing. And there's POC rep, there's disability rep. She does amazing with it. We talk about it a lot on the podcast, so I will link that podcast episode below for you. The next one is a book talk fave, and this queen, Colleen fucking Hoover, broke my heart. I don't know why I read this book. I know actually why. I read this book to cry. I cried. Colleen Hoover does an amazing job of bringing those little tiny details back around and making you hurt. And it's like the tiny things that you just skip over and you're like, oh, okay, cool. and then you're reading, and then at the end it hits you and you're like, fuck, like, how did I not pay attention to this more? Or like, oh my gosh, they named their child this, something like that, where it's like, but this trope is the friends with benefits trope that turns eventually into I love you trope. So the friends with benefits turning into lovers. So it was really good. He's a pilot and she's a student. So, and it's her brother's best friend. Next, I want to get into more of the smuttier romances that I've been reading this year. These are going to be my physical copies. I will mention if I read one of the books in the series on e-version, but the first one we're going to start out with is Flock by Kate Stewart. This bitch gave me trust issues. This whole book, I did not trust a single person. I was like, this is sketch. This is all sketch. I don't trust either of the guys. And lo and behold, that ending. How has it taken me a month to read the next book? I'll tell you why, because I'm broke. But this ending was like, I didn't understand anything. I literally don't remember what all happened because it was so confusing and like, but it was great. It was great. It was amazing. The scenes, the lake scene. If you read it for the lake scene. That's all I'm gonna say. The next book I read was from Lauren Asher. It is Throttled. She is a book author talk. So this is her book. It's the Dirty Air series. Her second book, Collided, I actually have going to be reading this week. But Throttled, it is the kind of vlog style writing. So it feels like a movie / vlog. I know Grace had a hard time with that, but I didn't. I enjoyed it. The ballroom scene was kind of my favorite, and it's more of the brother's rival. So it's like a kind of betraying her brother and falling for his rival, except they're kind of teammates as well, but they still compete. It's Formula One racing. Never read a book like this. Really enjoyed it. Really, really excited for the next two. Santiago is the fourth book. Not too excited, but she does have discrete covers, and I will be linking all of these books down in the description. She does have discrete covers for this, and I actually like these covers better than I like the discrete covers. She also has a new book coming out that I'm excited to read. So we have a very big anticipated read, The Crown of Gilded Bones. And this book read like a middle book. And what I mean by that, it is that slower pace, heavy world building book. If you don't like world building and you don't like repetition, this book will probably be your least favorite of the series. And the reason why is because she has to reaffirm these notions in this book to make you understand the rest of the books in the series. And I understand that, and I understand the setup. I didn't read it as fast as I read the first two. It took me about a week to read because of that much world building. And yes, the repetitiveness when it comes to Poppy and Kiernan is annoying, but I actually enjoyed it. And you see the development of Poppy and Castiel's relationship, and you get them dating. Dating is what it is, even though they're already married. But spoiler, also spoilers for all these books. But yeah, you can see I actually tabbed for this book. I tabbed the spicy scenes as well. So the next book series I have is the Beautiful Bastard series by Christina Lauren. I picked this up at work, not really intending to like, oh my gosh, but every chapter, like, I fell in love with Christina Lauren's, their writing. Also, the fact that they're two people, did not know that until a coworker told me, but two people, every single chapter of the series is like a series of standalones, but all the characters are interconnected. And this definitely, the series inspired me a lot to write my own book, which I'm currently writing. But this was a great series. I'm gonna find the third book sometime to read. It's just so good. It's a good palate cleanser. Like, you can step away from this series, read a bunch of other books, and then come back to it because they are standalones. And it kind of does refresh you about what happened in the last book. And she does have novellas too. They have novellas in there. I always refer to them as she. There's one person, but there's two people. which is kind of what I think Grace and I are going to do, is like Maggie Grace as our author name, because that sounds like a first and middle name, so we're going to do that. Next book I read is Blood of Zeus. This isn't the order I read them, but I read this I think last month, and I read it because I saw it, and I saw that it had photos. So it has like pictures in here, and I was less than impressed with the plot. I thought it would be really spicy, but it's not, and it's more, I feel like there wasn't even plot or spice. I didn't know what it just felt like nothing. And I think I gave it like a 2 out of 5 stars. I read it in a day, that's why I give it 2 out of 5 stars, but it failed to impress me. Now this next series really impressed me, and this is the Madison Kate series by Tate James. So we have Hate, we have Liar, and then we have Fake. I actually have the 4th book right up here, Kate, but this is a dark reverse harem romance, and this isn't the first reverse harem I've read, but is the one that I found most enjoyable with the best plot. Tate James likes to keep you on your toes, and she likes to give you cliffhangers at the very end of every single book. The ending for Fake was a crime. And I've been reading it and letting Liv, she lives in Australia. I have been giving her my updates and stuff, and she loves it because she read the whole series. And I actually think we're going to do like a read-along series, buddy read, for the 2nd series, which is the Hades series, and I'm really excited for that. But I really enjoyed this reverse harem romance. The next author is definitely a book talk fave as well. It's going to be Penelope Douglas. So I started off reading Punk 57 on ebook, and I loved Misha. And then I realized that Punk 57 was also in the same realm as her Devil's Night series. So I started reading her Devil's Night series. Actually was able to get all of these books before the cover changes. Like literally the week of the cover change, I ordered them and they all came in, except Kill Switch was the old cover. So I returned that on Amazon and I bought it on Thrift Books with the old cover. So that's how I was able to read this and get this in the old cover. I really enjoy the series. I have all my videos, I will link down for my reviews for them. However, I felt like the last one was so lackluster, and the wrap up of the whole series just felt so eh. And I have that in my review, but I also read the novellas on Kindle Unlimited, so that was great. Other Penelope Douglas books that I read is I read Bully. It's the Fall Away series. I'm hoping to get the next books. I really did enjoy this. She does really good with bully romances, so I'm really excited to read this. And then, of course, I read the most taboo romance I've ever read, Credence. I have my review up for this. I really enjoyed this book. I read it so fast. That's how I know I like Penelope Douglas, is I can read all of her books really fast. However, the ending, I was just kind of like, I wished it was not a happy ending and that she ended up with none of the guys. That's all I'm gonna say. The next author is, I think, kind of an older generation's favorite author. It is the myth, the legend, J.R. Ward. And so I read 4 of her books in the Black Dagger Brotherhood series. I read 5, 6, 7, 8, because I read the first 4 at the very end of December. Oops. But I have the last 4 right here. So I read this, and I noticed with series that I have to read them really fast. And if it's longer than 8 books, I fall off and I'm unable to finish the series completely because of just not timing, but my capacity to continue reading the story, especially when they're a bunch of standalones. I probably will go back to them, except I felt like they were so repetitive with each of the stories. I kind of knew what was going to happen. And I'm pretty sure the next couple are like queer baiting, and I don't know how I feel about that. And these are set definitely in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I don't know if I like the setting enough. And I just feel like there's not a lot of diversity when it comes to this book. I mean, yes, we have disabled rep. But I don't know if I want to continue the series. I loved the first 8 books with the first original brothers, and then John Matthew this was the book I was most excited for, because he was a constant character throughout the whole series from literally book 1 or 2. I think book 2. But yes, so let's get into books that authors sent me. So the first author was Laurelyn Page, and she sent me the Arranged series by Stella Gray. And so I will link my review down below. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, the series as a whole, because I read it really fast, but there were key parts of the series that I just didn't like. It's set in Chicago, so arranged marriage. It's actually more of well, they both agree to get married, so it's not really a forced marriage, it's more of arranged marriage. And but she does it so that somebody would pay for her college, and it's like thousands of people pay for their own college. You don't need a man to help you pay for it. And the idea of virginity and women in marriage really irked me the wrong way with the series. I will link my review down below. Next book is Rough and Rowdy by Haley Feynman. If you want the feminism to leave your body, read this. You don't want a feminist guy. You want a guy who is literally rough and rowdy. Perfect for you. This guy is not sweet. There's time jumps, there's pregnancy trope, and it's also kind of cringy, but that's fine. It's fiction. It's fine. The feminism left in my body when I read this. Am I going to read the next book? Probably, because the next book actually sounds really interesting. But yes, so this is Rough and Rowdy. This was sent to me by an author. So that is all of the physical books that I've read. Neon Gods. Neon Gods by Katie Robert. I also will talk about my ebooks next. So something else I wanted to add was trigger warnings. Please make sure you check trigger warnings before reading these books, because when I talk about smutty romances, a lot of them are darker and have darker themes. So, that's my window. So please be careful and look up trigger warnings. Okay, so guys, for this portion, I have my Goodreads pulled up, and I'm going to be talking about every ebook I have read. So kind of to start it off, I read Den of Vipers. I read it in January. It scared me a little bit when I first read it. However, now that I've read a lot more darker romance kinds of stuff, I definitely am interested in reading it again and seeing my opinions on it from now reading a darker romance. And then I also read kind of more of that reverse harem darker ones that I've read is the Sainthood series by Shabaya and Davis. I'll have these up on the screen. I really liked this. It kind of gives me the Madison Kate vibes, but I like Madison Kate better. I also read Fear the Reapers, which is basically Den of Vipers, but a little better plot, and it's more of a series than it is a standalone. So it's 300 pages instead of 600 pages. But those are the darker reverse harem ebooks that I've read. So now let's talk about hockey. I read in the month of March, in a span of a week, I read The Deal by Elle Kennedy. I read Briar U series by Elle Kennedy. I read the Fulton U series by Maya Hughes. And then I read The Kings of Rittenhouse by Maya Hughes. It's 18, 17 books I read in a week. My mental health was not good, and this was also during the time where on my TikTok I was creating the Books That Made Me Blush series, and let's just say they really were good. And I think I started talking about the Briar U and off-campus series around this time, and this is where I made my iconic use this sound if you like the Briar U boys and stuff. And this is where I kind of started gaining my traction on my TikTok, and I started reading more of those smutty smutty romances on ebook. And I bought all these books, and then I also got Kindle Unlimited during this time. I also read Kennedy Fox, so I am one of their ARC people, and I read a lot of their books. And so I started reading their ex-con series. So I read Pushing You Away, Keeping You Close, Needing You Close, and I read their 4 books in the month of February, I'm pretty sure. So the next kind of like, I read Punk 57, I've already talked about that, but this was like the first Penelope Douglas book I read was Punk 57 on Kindle Unlimited. And then I got into Taut Strings by Gabrielle Sands. She actually sent me these 2 books on ebook, because they're ebooks, but you can get physical copies, but she's kind of a smaller author. But it's a series of standalones, and the first one is a reverse harem singer band, and then the second one is just a regular romance. It's not a second chance, but it's like my ex-boyfriend's rival kind of thing. It's like it's a brother's rivalry as well. So my ex-boyfriend's bandmate kind of is what it is. I really enjoyed the series. I'm really excited for the next one. I think they're really good and easy to read, and I think that it could become a staple on Book Talk if people read it more, because we don't get a lot of like those singer reverse harems. We get a lot of like darker reverse harems, but this one was a nice, good, it was that kind of like rock star, so it's a little darker, but not like dark like Madison Kate dark. So I'm looking at my computer, that's why I'm going through all my Goodreads stuff. So the next book I read was Bossing the Cowboy by Kennedy Fox. This is part of their Circle B Ranch series. I actually have Kissing the Cowboy that I need to read this week, that I will be reading, but that's a book that I read. I really enjoyed that. It's age gap, boss, she's an intern, and it's definitely, it has those like, there's gaps, so there's time jumps, which is good. Let's see, I read Conclave and Fire Night, which are the novellas for the Devil's Night series. Those series, I read the novellas for those on ebook. The next one is a classic Book Talk Now book series, is Ice Planet Barbarians. I read the first 7 of the series, and kind of how I was talking about with when I was reading J.R. Ward, I felt like I couldn't keep going, because I just felt, I needed to read faster, and I wasn't reading fast enough, and I just got bored with it, and so I moved on from the series. I enjoyed the first 7 books. It was the like original girls in that series, so I was happy to read them, and I really did enjoy them. And then one of the last books I read, or a couple of the last books I read, was Diver's Heart by K.A. Knight. She is the author of Den of Vipers, and honestly, I enjoyed this book so much. Like, I stopped reading like 60% of the way through and like went back a couple months later, but I feel like it has way more plot, and the guys in the reverse harem are way better than the guys in Den of Vipers. I feel like Den of Vipers was kind of her, Grace said it a really good way, Den of Vipers was her like release of like that really dark, so she could experience that in writing that. But I feel like Diver's Heart was this like, it is this reverse harem divers, so like swimmers, but the plot was really good. It kept me on my toes, and I really enjoyed it. And so I wish if it was a series, that'd be cool, but it was a standalone, so I think that was perfect for this book. And then I also read the first book of Zodiac Academy, and so that was really good. I really enjoyed that book. Or I read actually a couple books. I read the first and second book, I think, of Zodiac Academy, and I'm trying to see when I read it. It's sometimes hard. Yeah, I finished it like June, the last day of June, I finished it. And so I am going to put a review out on Book Talk later this week, because I'm going to try to finish the novella and then the 6th book, because the 7th book comes out in December. So I'm going to try to do that, but I'm going to try to get that out later this week. I'm going to recap for all the books that I've read I'm pretty sure that's all of them. All of the romance books that I've read. I read a couple like YA books. I read like We Hunt the Flame. I read Illuminae Files. I read The Shadows Between Us, A Deal with the Elf King, These Violent Delights, Stalking Prince Dracula. I read the whole Shatterby series. And I read Love from A to Z. They Both Die in the End. And the Guinevere Deception. Those were all of the books that I read for YA. But this video is more about the romance book that I've read. So thank you so much for watching. I know my ring light, I need to get a new one because like you can see it like right in my eyes. It's just, but if I go like this, I look weird, and I hate having my hair like this. I just hate the way my face looks. So we're gonna have to deal with this, my eyes being in the ring, glowing. I look like the Ice Planet Barbarian's glowing eyes. But thank you for watching. I read a ton of books, and I want to say that it's okay not to read this many books. I've been struggling a lot this semester, and so reading was definitely an escape for me, and so that's why I did read a lot, and I'm able to spend this money because I do get 40% off a lot of these books, because I do work at a bookstore. But I want to say that I met my goal this year already halfway through the year. That just because I've met my goal doesn't mean that you should feel shame for not meeting yours. Or if you've read like 4 books, good job. Like some people read really slow. I am a very fast reader, and I have to get that momentum going and keep reading new books. And yes, sometimes I will forget plots to other books, but in that moment I enjoyed that book, I read it, and that's that. So currently right now I am reading The People We Meet on Vacation for our podcast. And then here are all the books I'm trying to read this month. It's a lot. I have a 3-day break this week, and I think I'm gonna like speed run, so I might do a video on like a speed run 3-day reading. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.